54 or 5 who are having strokes is rising. The Stroke Association says that in the last 15 years, the annual figure for men between 40 and 54 admitted to hospital after a stroke rose by 50%, the annual figure. The figure for England last year was more than 6,000. Among women in the same age bracket, the increase was less, but still considerable, about a third. Bridget Bergin of the Stroke Association is with us. We're hoping to be joined by a man who had a stroke and now works as a trainer for people who are recovering. Bridget Bergin, what is the general view as to what has caused this increase? Because it's quite dramatic.
Good morning. Yes, it is. It is a real increase. We believe that this is due to more people with unhealthy lifestyles. The biggest risk factor for stroke is high blood pressure. 80% of strokes can be prevented, and I think that's a really important factor. So I think it's all to do with diet, exercise, checking your blood pressure, and particularly looking at the salt.
Well, that's the question, I suppose, is knowing what the risks are. And you're saying that, in a sense, it's relatively straightforward. If you've got high blood pressure, then you should be careful and take precautionary measures and try to get that down. That is item number one on the list.
Absolutely, it's really important, and people don't check their blood pressure at regular intervals, and I think that if people did, then they would have more awareness of the potential for things like stroke as a consequence of high blood pressure.
I think we've been joined now by Pete Rumbold, whom I mentioned, who's, I think, now 53, and I think, Mr. Rumbold, I'm right in saying you had a stroke 4 years ago or so, which left you paralysed down your left side.
That's correct, yeah. It was in November 2011.
Was it, I mean, on the sort of scale of seriousness, how big an event was it?
Yeah, it was as big as it gets, really. It left me paralysed down the left side and unable to speak, swallow or see.
Well, you're obviously speaking perfectly well now, so there was an element of recovery, was there?
Absolutely, yeah. The first 6 months is quite critical, and you make the best improvements in the first year. Obviously, the muscles in the vocal cords come back and the sight comes back, but then the physical side of it takes a lot longer.
And you, I think I mentioned, are working as a trainer for Action for Rehabilitation and Neurological Injuries. So you're working
the
with
ARNI Institute, yeah.
You're working with a lot of people who've had a similar experience.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a fabulous system, the ARNI system. It's uses task-related exercises to improve, coping strategies and functions and balance and movement. It's just trying to get stroke survivors' lives back to normal.
Now, looking back on your own experience, were you fit or unfit?
Yeah, I was very fit. Yeah, very fit. I was in the gym 6 days a week. I ate healthy, but as Bridget said, it's just being aware that I had high blood pressure but didn't know about it. And I hadn't been to the doctors or get it checked out, so I was training with high blood pressure.
Right, and if you had known that, presumably the advice would have been, look, slow down a little bit and take some
medication,
medication
absolutely.
Or dietary advice to try to get your blood pressure down.
Yeah, well, obviously medication would have been, because my diet was perfect and my training was perfect, but it was just the fact that I needed medication.
It's interesting, Bridget Bergin, from the Stroke Association, that here's someone who was pretty fit. I think you're a bit of a bodybuilder as well, were you?
Well, just a bit of a bodybuilder.
Okay, a bit of a bodybuilder. Okay, not Michelin man, but whatever.
No.
And, of course, people in that situation, I suppose, some of them maybe check their blood pressure all the time, but many of them probably don't because they assume they're fit.
Yes, I think that certainly is the case, and this is all about people being aware that even though they may be very fit, they may exercise regularly, they still need to be aware of their blood pressure.
And do you, are you conscious, Pete Rumbold, that there are a lot of people of the age that you were what, in your late 40s when this
49,
happened,
yeah.
who simply aren't aware that there is an increasing number of people at that age who are having these events?
Yeah, and I think, I'm quite aware of the problem because I work as a gym at Altered Images in Bromsgrove, and we check blood pressures regularly with the new members, and the amount of members that I've seen with high blood pressure and sent them to the doctors...
And they just didn't know?
They hadn't got a clue.
Because I suppose if you go to the GP regularly, I mean, any decent GP is going to check your blood pressure just as a matter of course, isn't
Absolutely,
he or
yes.
she? But if you've got no reason to go to the doctor, I suppose you wouldn't notice it.
No, well, I hadn't been to the doctors for about 7 or 8 years because I'm not that type of person. So my blood pressure wasn't checked for a long time, and basically there was no clues that I'd got high blood pressure. So I was training well, eating healthy. So I expected for the rest of my body to be healthy.
The other point, Bridget Bergin, I suppose, is this: what are the warning signs?
It can be dizziness. Certainly, if you're having a mini stroke, which people can often have and don't recognise the factors, you can have some difficulty with speech. You can even have some of the early signs of a stroke, such as changes in your face.
And anybody who notices anything like that should instantly get urgent medical advice and attention.
Absolutely our advice.
Well, Bridget Bergin from the Stroke Association, thanks very much, and Pete Rumbold, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.